Is this a raw vlog? Is this a beverage? Am I here? Is this unedited? Raw vlog recorded in front of a live beverage. Delivered to you, raw and unedited. Raw vlog. Yes. Little bit of kind of Devo talking heads for you. I'm Alan. This is the Airhorn channel, and you are watching or listening to the Raw Vlog. Raw Vlogs, as so stated in the intro song, are recorded in front of a live beverage. Today I've got my bulletproof coffee and delivered to you raw and unedited. If you're unfamiliar with the channel, this is a channel where we do pretty much all talking. It's the Airhorn channel, just blowing that air horn. And it is a companion channel to my main MTB ALAN channel, where we do writing videos, we do some product reviews, vlogs, stuff like that. Check the corner link for that channel. We also do interviews over here, and those are called the Airhorn podcasts. So in today's Raw Vlog, I'm not really sure where we're going to go with our subject matter. We're going to be a different level of raw today. I actually first off, this is coming out late, and I'm sorry for that. And I know last week's was late, and that was mostly due to me not actually publishing and setting it up. But today we're late because I actually recorded a full raw vlog 54. It's rendered, it's actually up on YouTube. And this morning I was thinking back on it and then kind of listening back to it, and I used the metaphor to talk about race and ethnicity kind of through that whole thing. And in the end, I realized there were some serious problems with that metaphor. So I could have added some explanations and whatnot in the comments or something in the description, but I felt like it's still really easy for things to get misinterpreted and misunderstood. I'm also talking kind of quietly right now because the ladies are still in bed, so I don't want to disturb them too much. So today, we will still talk about our normal stuff. We've got channel news, we've got Stoke of the Week, and then kind of our race runs segment. And then we'll get into the main subject matter, which we'll talk a little bit about suspension setup, not the specifics of it, but my recent experience with that. So jumping into it, hey cat, our news this week is that the upcoming episode for the MTB ALAN channel, I'm working really hard on it. I actually am not even sure if I'm going to be able to get it done on time, but it'll be about trying to make improvements to my writing. I recently got some coaching and then took that coaching up to Snow Summit and worked on those tips and tricks on the trails. And spoiler alert, I made improvements. The crazy thing to me was I made serious improvements on something that I thought I had pretty dialed, and I learned a lot from that. And the other bit of news is that the MTB ALAN channel recently hit 7,000 subscribers, so I'm pretty dang stoked on that. So thanks for your support. If you're a subscriber over there, and if you've been around for a while, thanks for sticking around. And if you're new, welcome to that channel. But I'm pretty sure if you're over here, you've been a longtime supporter of the MTB ALAN channel. So thanks for sticking around. The Stoke of the Week this week is, before I go any further, I don't remember if I told you this previously, but I would like to know what your Stoke of the Week is. Put them in the comments. Put hashtag Stoke of the Week or something like that so that I can find those, or just write Stoke of the Week in there. That way it makes it easier for me to search those, and I'll compile them, and then that way we as a group can share our Stoke of the Week. I will read them out next week for whatever Stoke of the Week you put in this week. So in Raw Vlog 55, we will get to share our Stokes of the Week. But starting that off, I'm going to read Kerwin Ware, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Kerwin shared a Stoke of the Week a while ago, and I'm sorry this is late, but I meant to kind of make this happen. Anyway, Kerwin says, I just want to share my Stoke of the Week with you. I hit Santa Cruz Flow Trail for the first time on Saturday, and it was new bike day the day before, and I got a 2020 Specialized Enduro comp. So heck yeah, that's freaking rad. First off, just getting a new bike, and that Enduro, I hear really good things about that bike. Flow Trail is awesome. I rode Flow Trail. I've ridden it twice in one day, and that was one of the most memorable trails I've ever ridden. So good for you, Kerwin. My Stoke of the Week is I actually have two things. I have a cat hair on my tongue. One of those things is that the other night, Tony, just kind of in the other afternoon, Tony hit me up and said, hey, let's do a live stream. So we did a live stream Wednesday night, and it was really fun. We had a bunch of people in the comments. So you check the corner link if you want to see that. If you didn't see it live, it was a pretty dang fun conversation. We even got a little bit serious here and there. But like Joseph from Trail Features was in the comments. Paul the Punter was in the comments. Joe Tonka was in there. A whole bunch of fellow YouTubers were in the comments. And then, of course, a lot of you were in there too and asking really good questions. So, yeah, if you didn't make that last minute live stream, understandable, but you can check it out on Tony's channel. My other Stoke of the Week is getting coached for the first time. I'm like so many of us, I have been totally self-taught, and it's funny because I've always told people you should get coaching, and a lot of that has come from watching other people ride and kind of being scared for them and thinking, wow, they could really use some coaching to work on those fundamentals. And being able to tune some stuff and just really improve some stuff that I thought I was good at was great. And it gave me a really good foundation to hopefully improve that much faster. So I'm going to definitely get more coaching. Can be a bit pricey, but I do feel like it's better than spending money on medical bills. I also learned a lot about my bike, that's kind of what we'll talk about. That'll be our main subject matter today. So let's talk race runs. Now, race runs is the segment where we talk about race and ethnicity, and a quick preamble to this segment. If you're wondering why I'm talking about these things on a mountain biking podcast or vlog, it's because these things are as much as part of our experience as whether or not we were skaters or BMXers or whatever before we came to mountain biking, or the difference between somebody who's been mountain biking since they were since the 90s and those of us who maybe just started more recently. All these things are part of what we bring to the mountain biking community. And I also want to say part of the preamble is that it is called race runs, and that's just kind of clever. Maybe I can rename it at some point, but I want to say that the concept of race in and of itself is somewhat arbitrary, and even you could even say it's racist. And that is because, well, we're all the human race, and while we have different ethnicities and different skin tones, the idea of race really drives division between different peoples based on some arbitrary things. So Just kind of want to put that out there. And the thing I wanted to talk about in the race runs segment is I've often had people kind of say that they're like colorblind, that they don't see my color, they don't even take my race or ethnicity into account. And while I understand the intention behind that, and while it might have you might be coming at it with a positive intention, if we crack it open a little bit, we can see some of the problems with that, and that is that it actually heightens the concept of race or skin color as a thing to judge people on, because it's saying that in order for me to see you, in an equal way, I have to take race out of the equation, can't include it in the equation. And it seems to me the more enlightened way would be to take the race and accept it and make it and understand it as part of a person's background and their personality and character, and accept it and maybe even celebrate it, be curious about it. The other aspect of that is that there's a naivety to it, and this is not to say that if you have walked around with this belief that you as a human are naive. It just means that concept may just be a bit underdeveloped, because if the more you look at it, the more you realize that taking that aspect of a person out of the equation is to take a lot of their experience and a lot of their background out of the equation, which, like, who wants to do that to another person, to just totally ignore all of that? There's also this kind of imaginary utopia there that's built into that concept of being colorblind, because whether we like it or not, whether this is good or bad, and I think a lot of times it can be bad, but in our culture, in our society, the color of your skin will have a lot of effect on your experience. So just like, two people going down the same trail on totally different bike setups will have two different experiences down the same trail. And also that those humans are bringing their own experiences, their own level of skill, whatever trails they've ridden in the past, how long they've been riding, all that. And it's just a little micro metaphor, but if you're both going down the same trail, you can both get to the end of the trail and have a conversation about the trail, and your experiences might not match up. And you probably have had that happen. And if you have curiosity and if you're open-minded, you'll wonder like why their experience is different, and allow them to have that different experience. And I think what's key here, and this is kind of the thing I've come to, I've had a lot of belief in empathy. I think empathy is a very powerful feeling, a very powerful experience that we can have. However, because of where we are at in our society, two people of different skin tones can have such vastly different experiences of our country, of our world, of our nation, just day-to-day things. They can be so vastly different that a person of a different skin tone may not actually be able to empathize. It may be totally outside of that person's reality. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing a lot of right now, is that there's whole populations in the United States that are experiencing our day-to-day lives in a certain way that a whole nother segment of the population just doesn't get. And I would say to you, if wherever you're at in this, you don't have to understand it. You don't even have necessarily to have empathy. But I think it is enlightened to hear an entire group of people saying the same thing and coming at us with a particular message, and be able to go, if there are that many people who are feeling and thinking the same kind of, coming from the same place, not necessarily thinking the same thing, but coming from the same place, that we should listen to that. Again, another little micro metaphor, like in the bike industry, you used to never, a dropper seat post was never just stock. It didn't just come on a bike. It was an upgrade that you had to make on your mountain bike. And for a number of years, the bike companies just didn't include them, and you had to upgrade them, even though like more and more people were upgrading to dropper seat posts. And there was even a whole bunch of people who were like, I don't see the purpose of a dropper seat post, and it's just more complexity, and it's just one more thing that's going to break. And of course, this was at a time when dropper seat posts were brand new, and they were breaking because, they were just, the technology wasn't there, and there wasn't as many people inputting into the dropper seat post pool. There weren't as many people developing in it, and you didn't have as many choices. You had like the RockShox reverb, you maybe had like the DNM, and then a couple, I think there was like the specialized, what was it called? The like mission control or something that had like two positions, then like infinite adjust was like a thing, and like now that's just normal. But that was a thing that was like had like such good effects on your riding. And I remember at the time everybody was talking about like, wow, this just changes how you ride. And now, and the thing is the bike industry listened to that. There was now, like, if you buy a trail bike, or a, whatever classifications you want to put to it, enduro bike, whatever, you buy anything with any amount of suspension, and we're even talking hardtails, if it didn't come with a dropper seat post, people would be like, what? Like, how is this not coming with a dropper seat post? Because it's become the norm. And it became the norm because an entire industry listened and paid attention to what the consumer base was doing. Everybody wanted these things, and everybody was talking about it, and people were upgrading their bikes. And bringing that back to what we were talking about is that I'm sure there were, granted, the in the bike industry, a lot of people there are mountain bikers, cyclists, so they got it. But imagine that entire industry, none of them ever rode a bike downhill or rode a bike downhill in a gnarly way. And if they did, they were fine with having a seat up in their butt the whole time. And they just didn't get it, and we were all saying like, we really would like dropper seat posts to come on our bikes standard. Stop making me upgrade every time I buy a new bike. I got to upgrade the dropper seat post. And they just never did it. And it was because they didn't understand it, because they don't ride downhill bikes or whatever, just kind of, we'll just imagine that for a moment. And that's a little bit of frustration. So that's a little micro kind of metaphor. Hopefully you can expand that. But I did kind of want to come back to the main thing there, which was we all have different experiences, and there's a lot of things that affect our experiences, and those experiences are the lenses through which we see reality, the lenses through which we perceive the world. And one of the major things that affect your experience and thus affect your lens is the color of your skin. As much as we would like to say that doesn't matter, we know it does, because racial bias, racial prejudice, and all that is just as much a part of our culture as anything else right now. So I say there's nothing wrong with seeing color. If anything, we should celebrate the different colors amongst us and accept people and realize we don't have to understand where somebody was coming from in order to see their point of view as legitimate. I think that's the thing that's been kind of crazy to me, is that like we've become so divided that we see our ability to understand somebody else's point of view as a measure of the legitimacy of their point of view, which, if you really think about it, actually, you don't even have to really think about it. It's a really narcissistic way of looking at our world. And I know, like within mountain biking, I have been guilty of that. Like I've looked at somebody on a different type of bike and I just don't get it. And I go like, why? I mean, like, especially if like you bring, a short travel bike to Snow Summit, and I will be like, I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't relate to riding that type of bike at Snow Summit. And then in the back of my head, and I'm not consciously thinking this, as I'm going like, it's the wrong bike. They've made the wrong choice. And the more I started looking at that, the more I started realizing that how small-minded that is, because it's just saying that because I, one single human being, or even my friends, because we don't get it, it must be wrong. And that implies that my perception, my experience is the correct perception. And not only that, that it is the only perception that matters. So if their perception, if their desire to come in and use this other bike at the bike park, that might be fine for them. And it's funny because what kind of got me thinking about this is I just watched Fangirl Yuka's video of riding. It was called I think it's called the strangest Wismas ever. So she goes up to Whistler for opening day, but she's on her Druid, and she was talking about how it's a shorter travel bike than she even rode last year. And people ride A-line and whatnot on DH bikes, and she's out there on it's not a short travel 29er, but it's definitely not a DH bike, and it's less travel than she kind of was working with before. And by the end of the day, she's like, hey, by the way, my bike handles these trails just fine. And that's the kind of thing where you get what I'm saying, that don't use your, if you don't get it, if you don't understand where somebody is coming from, or you see something and it just doesn't make sense to you, don't immediately assume that it's wrong. And I'm obviously talking about where Black Americans are right now, or any person of color, or for me, I have to do this also with my white friends. I've had conversations actually with a number of white males, and I just don't get how any conversation I have with a white dude about race and ethnicity, there's always this kind of like need for that person to insist on the fact that they're not racist. And I'm I've never really said this too much, but I'm always like, why is this suddenly about you? We're talking about a different, skin colored person, or a whole group of people who are under a level of subjugation and mistreatment, and you're making it about you. And I had to like kind of reflect on that, because I would get frustrated by it. And I had a conversation with Kelly about it, and I started to have some more understanding about kind of what's going on there. So, and while I didn't need I needed the understanding there, but it also taught me that like, just because I don't understand now doesn't mean I'm not going to understand in the future. So I'm just trying to give more benefit of the doubt. Yeah. Also, you never know where you're going to be now, where you were in the past. I mean, I've seen people on the trail before where internally, like for a moment, I want to judge them for like the bike they're on and the gear that they're wearing. And then I have to go like, well, what bike was I on a few years ago, and what gear was I wearing a few years ago? And just always be aware that, people are in movement. Ideally, they're going from one place to another in their lives. So yeah, I don't want to blow a bunch of rainbows out my butt right now, but I don't know if you can tell, but it's been a tiring week. It's been an exhausting week. A lot of hard conversations this week. So that's what's on my mind. I hope I made it enough about bikes for you to at least keep your interest. So I'm just going to leave it there. Oh, though I did want to talk about suspension setup, but maybe I'll talk about that next time. But long story short, I haven't messed with my suspension setup for a long time and totally changed pretty much everything on it this couple of weekends ago or maybe last weekend, and am amazed that my bike can do these things. It's, our full suspension bikes are really flexible. Anyway, that's a whole different conversation. Maybe we'll talk about that next week as I get it more tuned. So that's it. I hope you dug it. Would love to hear your comments about any of these kind of things. I know I kind of rambled and I probably did a couple of metaphors wrong and said some things wrong. Love to hear your thoughts. And do remember, hit me with your Stoke of the Week. I'll read them out next week because I want to know what you're stoked on, and I want to make Stoke of the Week about us. Hit the subscribe button. I'll show up in your feed with these raw vlogs and Airhorn podcasts. And with that, see you next week.